40,000 years ago, long before books, before alphabets, before even the idea of writing existed, a single hand touched the wall of a cave and left a mark. Imagine this, a flicker of firelight dancing on stone, shadows moving like spirits, and a small group of humans huddled in silence as one of them, with trembling fingers, mixed ash, blood, and crushed stone into color. And then, on that cold, damp surface, he began to draw. That first stroke was not just a picture. It was a story, a memory carved into time. A message meant not just for those who sat around him but for those who would come thousands of generations later. And that means, for us. Think about it. Today we type words into screens. We print books, we film movies, we share stories across the entire world in seconds. But the origin of all of that, the spark that began it, was hidden in the darkness of caves. These weren't random doodles. They were windows into the soul of a people who had no other way to speak beyond their voices. They wanted their fears, their hunts, their loves, their gods to live forever. They wanted to be remembered. The caves of Chauvet in France, Lascaux, Altamira in Spain, these places are museums older than history itself. When you step inside, the air feels different. Cold, heavy, as though time itself has stopped. You see bison charging across the walls, mammoths towering with tusks curved like moons, horses painted in motion as if frozen mid-run. Some of these images are so detailed, so precise, that you almost expect the animals to leap out of the rock and thunder past you. But remember, the people who made these paintings had no brushes like ours. They used bones, feathers, fingers. Their paint was not store-bought. It was earth, clay, ash, and the minerals of the ground they lived on. And yet, the stories they created are still alive. Why did they do it? Why, in the middle of survival, when food was scarce, when predators lurked in the forests, when every day was a fight just to stay alive, would they go into a cave, light torches, and spend hours painting animals and symbols on walls? Was it to teach their children? Was it to pray to spirits, hoping the hunt would be successful? Or was it simply the same reason you and I tell stories today? To make sense of the world, to pass on what we feel, to fight against silence. Picture it, a boy sitting beside the fire, watching his father draw the outline of a bison on the cave wall. The boy's eyes wide with wonder as he sees firelight bring the picture to life. For him, this is not art. This is magic. He believes that when the hunters step outside the cave tomorrow, the painted bison will guide him to the real herd. The image is not just an image, it is a promise, a prayer, a spell. And perhaps, that was the secret. These first humans weren't just artists. They were shamans of memory. They believed that the walls of caves were not dead stone but living skin, a skin on which they could inscribe their dreams. Every line carved, every palm pressed, was a declaration. We are here. Do not forget us. But here is where the mystery deepens. Some of these caves go so far underground that reaching them was dangerous. Narrow passages, total darkness, the choking smoke of torches. Why would anyone risk their life just to paint in a place no sunlight would ever touch? Scholars today argue endlessly. Some say these caves were sacred temples, places where only chosen people could enter and connect with the spirits of animals. Others believe the caves themselves were seen as wombs of the earth, and by painting inside them, humans were trying to be reborn into harmony with nature. And then, there are the handprints. Perhaps the most haunting of all. Red, black, white, palms pressed against rock, fingers spread wide. Sometimes dozens of them together, a chorus of silent voices. When you look at them, you realize these are not just symbols. These are the actual hands of people who lived 40,000 years ago. Their flesh is gone, their bones long turned to dust, but the outline of their hands still whispers, I was here. I existed. Isn't it chilling? We write our names in books, we carve them into trees, but these people wrote themselves into the bones of the earth. Now imagine walking deeper into such a cave. The torches flicker, your footsteps echo. You hear the drip of water from stalactites. The walls seem to move as the firelight shifts, making the painted animals run, leap, and twist as though alive. Your heart beats faster. You realize you are standing inside a story made by people who had nothing, yet gave us everything, the gift of imagination. But here is the heartbreaking truth. For every cave painting we have discovered, how many have been lost? Floods, collapses, the slow grinding of time, thousands, maybe millions of stories erased forever. Imagine how many dreams, fears, and prayers are gone without a trace. The voices of our ancestors, silenced before we even knew they spoke. The firelight fades, the walls grow darker, and yet the stories linger. 40,000 years ago, those who walked into the caves were not just recording life, they were shaping identity. Every figure of a bison, every handprint pressed into stone, every strange mark carved into shadow, they were attempts to answer the oldest question humanity has ever asked: who are we? When we stare at those walls today, we see animals, we see hunters, we see strange signs. But maybe what we are really seeing is the reflection of our own beginnings. Those paintings are not about mammoths or horses alone, they are about the human heart learning how to speak without words. They are the first chapters of a story that has never stopped being written. Imagine the people who gathered there. Men, women, children. Some too young to hunt, others too old to fight, all gathered around the torch as the cave artist worked. They gasped when the lines became a living beast. They whispered prayers when a handprint joined the others on the wall. The cave itself was transformed into a temple, where art was not decoration but destiny. It was the bridge between the living and the unseen. Now think about what this meant for survival. In a world where danger lurked everywhere, where winter could kill and predators struck without warning, these paintings were not entertainment. They were maps of memory. They taught which animals were hunted, how they moved, where they gathered. They were warnings of what to avoid and blessings for what to pursue. To us, they are art. To them, they were life itself. But beyond survival, there was something deeper. Humanity was learning to dream. Those caves were the first canvases of imagination. To paint what is not there, to create in the dark something that only lives in the mind, that is the birth of creativity. That is the fire that has carried us from stone tools to space travel. Without those first sparks, without those silent drawings, we may never have become who we are. And yet, not all is understood. Hidden among the paintings are mysteries. Spirals, zigzags, grids. What do they mean? Were they calendars, tracking the seasons of animals? Were they rituals, calling upon the spirits of the hunt? Or were they the beginnings of myths, stories passed not in words but in marks? Every scholar gives an answer, but the truth is, we may never know. Perhaps that is the greatest power of these caves, they remind us that mystery is older than memory. But here is the tragedy. Time, which has preserved these stories for so long, is also their greatest enemy. The air we breathe, the light we shine, the very footsteps of visitors threaten to erase them forever. Already, some caves like Lasso have been closed to the public because the paintings began to fade, eaten away by mold and human touch. Imagine that, the oldest stories of humanity, vanishing before our eyes. We protect them with barriers and replicas, but nothing lasts forever. One day, even these memories will disappear. And when they are gone, what will remain? Perhaps only the lesson they gave us, that our voices are fragile, that the things we create outlive us, but not eternity. That is why these caves feel both beautiful and heartbreaking. They remind us of how desperately humans have always wanted to be remembered, and how easily memory is lost. And yet, not all is understood. Hidden among the paintings are mysteries. Spirals, zigzags, grids. What do they mean? Were they calendars, tracking the seasons of animals? Were they rituals, calling upon the spirits of the hunt? Or were they the beginnings of myths, stories passed not in words but in marks? Every scholar gives an answer, but the truth is, we may never know. Perhaps that is the greatest power of these caves, they remind us that mystery is older than memory. But here is the tragedy. Time, which has preserved these stories for so long, is also their greatest enemy. The air we breathe, the light we shine, the very footsteps of visitors threaten to erase them forever. Already, some caves like Lasso have been closed to the public because the paintings began to fade, eaten away by mold and human touch. Imagine that, the oldest stories of humanity, vanishing before our eyes. We protect them with barriers and replicas, but nothing lasts forever. One day, even these memories will disappear. And when they are gone, what will remain? Perhaps only the lesson they gave us, that our voices are fragile, that the things we create outlive us, but not eternity. That is why these caves feel both beautiful and heartbreaking. They remind us of how desperately humans have always wanted to be remembered, and how easily memory is lost. Now picture the last artist, 40,000 years ago. He crouches near the wall, the torch burning low, smoke curling in the air. His hands are stained red with ochre. He knows this will be his final mark. Perhaps he presses his palm against the wall one last time, leaving the outline of his hand among the others. For him, it is a farewell. For us, it is a greeting across time. That single hand says, "I was alive." I mattered. And here is the haunting truth. He could never have imagined us. He could never have known that 40,000 years later, strangers would enter his sacred cave, carrying cameras and notebooks, whispering in awe at his work. He painted for his tribe, his gods, his children. He painted to stop the silence. And yet, somehow, his silence now speaks to us louder than words. So what do we do with this gift? Do we simply admire it as art? Or do we understand the deeper message, that storytelling is our inheritance, and forgetting it is our greatest danger? Because if those cave walls tell us anything, it is this: humans cannot survive on food alone. We need memory, we need meaning, we need stories. And here, at the end, lies the most painful thought of all. One day, we too will be gone. Our books will rot, our screens will go dark, our cities will crumble. Perhaps, thousands of years from now, others will stumble upon the ruins we leave behind. Maybe they will find a broken phone, a faded mural, a forgotten book. And maybe, just maybe, they will ask the same question we ask of the cave artists: what were they trying to tell us? 40,000 years ago, a human pressed a hand to stone and made a mark. Tonight, as you hear this story, that hand is reaching across time to touch yours. You are connected to them, not by blood, not by name, but by the same hunger, to be remembered, to leave something behind, to turn silence into story. Answer: the ending is not really an ending. The caves still whisper, the walls still breathe, and if you listen closely enough, you will hear their final message: we were here. We dreamed, we loved. Do not let us be forgotten.